Hello everybody! Welcome back to TTBurger Game Reviews here on YouTube, and I'm your host Tony. We're continuing with more game reviews here, episode 302 of my Final Fantasy series review, episode 302 part 5 of 10 parts, continuing with the PlayStation 2 era of Final Fantasy. Last time I took a look at Final Fantasy X. It was a great game and a great sequel and a great introduction to the PlayStation 2. There were some problems I had with it, but still it's a fantastic game overall, and we knew with this game more was going to come from Final Fantasy on the PlayStation 2. Today we look at the first direct sequel to a sequel in the Final Fantasy universe, with the same characters that continues the previous story and everything else. This was new for its time, something we did not expect here at all. Also, this is the first 3D Final Fantasy game we play as a female protagonist. And we got the names Yuna, Rikku, Paine, Y.R.P. You know, it's a nice ring to it, kind of reminds me of Charlie's Angels a little bit. We got the game right here. Final Fantasy X-2, starring Yuna, Rikku, and introducing Paine. For the PlayStation 2, released on November 18th, 2003. It was later part of the Final Fantasy X X2 HD Remastered Collection, along with other stuff as well. So let's get started here with taking a look at the very first 3D direct sequel to a Final Fantasy game for the PlayStation 2 by Square. Final Fantasy X-2, the very first direct sequel ever in the franchise. This came as a surprise for us because Final Fantasy never did this before, and it was fresh and new for its time. It is nice to be able to play as Yuna as the main protagonist because she was more likable than Tidus. It's also nice to see Rikku as the main character too, whom we learn is Yuna's cousin in Final Fantasy X. They are also joined by this new character called Paine, who people consider the female Squall Leonhardt, which I have no issue at all. Although she doesn't really have much characteristic or personality, I still consider her a good character. Also an improved Sphere grid in the new Dressphere system, which we will talk about later on. You're all wondering, how is Final Fantasy X-2? Do I think it is better than Final Fantasy X? Just as good? Or worse? Or no? The truth is, I really enjoyed this game. Yeah, I know people hated it because of this and that and other stuff, but this is one of those times where I feel like Final Fantasy X-2 is just as amazing and awesome as Final Fantasy X. I understand that to some people, this feels more like an expansion than an actual sequel, which I will admit, at times it does, but it still comes off and feels like a sequel at the same time as well. There are differences here. Perfect example is Grand Theft Auto London in 1969. That was an expansion to where you needed to save file from the original Grand Theft Auto on the PlayStation in order to play the game. Here, you do not need that. I call it a sequel, with some expansion elements in it, but you get what I mean. It takes place after the original Final Fantasy X and has its own story. There are also a couple problems that do hamper Final Fantasy X-2 a little bit, however, it is something that does not hurt the game in the process. So, why don't we get started here, ladies and gentlemen? Final Fantasy X-2 takes place 2 years after Final Fantasy X, once again in the land of Spira. As we get started, we see our main characters, Rikku, Paine, and Yuna? Question mark? Yuna is on stage singing this song, "What Can I Do For You? I Can't Hear You." And the song is pretty catchy and it's pretty good. But we find out, thanks to Rikku and Paine, that Yuna on stage is not the real Yuna. It is an imposter named LeBlanc. She has stolen Yuna's garment grid that gives her the ability to use different fighting modes. Yuna, Rikku, and Paine, Y.R.P, are sphere hunters known as the Gullwings, who are created by the Bhed. You know, the citizens who spoke in that language. They hunt down spheres by going to different locations in Spira. They travel via airship known as the Celsius. It's a huge ship with a barkeep, a wizard named Shinra who created the garment grid and the sphere recess, whatever you call that stuff. Yeah, with advanced technology, the Bhed, the spheres they find, it allows the spheres they uncover to have crystallized memories in them, and they're known as Dresspheres. And the goal is to use the spheres' powers and get new outfits and all that stuff. After they encounter LeBlanc, one of the Dresspheres they locate is called Songstress. The power of the sphere calls Yuna to keep dancing, and she can't stop dancing. They find it amusing at the same time. Rikku and Paine find it funny, and Yuna's like, "What's going on here? What's happening to me?" One day, they come across an old sphere that shows a recording of a young man who resembles Tidus, who was the main protagonist of Final Fantasy X. You see, Tidus does not exist anymore. He was a spirit and dream of Zanarkand along with his father Jet after the destruction of Zanarkand thousands of years ago. They're trying to find him and bring him back by finding more spirits to solve the mystery of who the person really is. Also, these spirits can help the people of Spira to help them fix up whatever happened with Sin. However, the LeBlanc Syndicate are after the spirits as well. They're led by LeBlanc herself, along with 2 henchmen, Ormi and Logos, who are 2 misfits and screw-up. They act like dumbasses and always get into trouble. One of the spheres the Goings locate shows a video of a colossal machina weapon known as the Venegun that originated from the machina in a war thousands of years ago. The Venegan is a powerful weapon that's powerful enough to destroy Spira itself, and is being roused by the ancient spirit of Shujin with his feelings of despair and anguish he developed. This has everyone worried, along with the other spirit they find of a young man who looks like Tidus as well. The Goldwings have to do all the stuff to get the answers they need. During their journey, they come across familiar faces from the previous game, such as Wakka, Lulu, Kimahri, and more. Wakka and Lulu are having a baby, which is something interesting you find out. Wakka is nervous about being a father, while Lulu is more excited. The story for the most part is really good, but there are a couple complaints I have with it. You see, in Final Fantasy X-2, you have side missions you take. These are fine. However, they did not tell you beforehand if you skip these, you're missing parts of the story. Sure, I mean, these parts are not mandatory, but why still do that? And you miss key characters as well, so I don't get it. Also, the story feels really fan service-like. I say this because the situation the girls get themselves into, the lines of dialogue, and the way that they're all dressed up and everything. If you play the game, you'll know what I mean. Also, once again, the same problem with Final Fantasy X, the story sometimes goes nowhere. Not as bad as last time, but it still happens. It's not a bad story, it just goes all over the place with this stuff. Final Fantasy X-2 shines in the presentation department. The graphics are pretty much on par with Final Fantasy X with some slight improvements. Being on par does not mean the game looks bad. Final Fantasy X had great graphics. Here, it's the same, slightly better. The character models and everything else look great and animate really well. The faces have more detail to them and they look more realistic. The lip syncing though is a little bit better, but still not that great. In both layers, once again, the lip syncing still looks like sock puppets saying boo 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 boo. The pre-rendered cutscenes lip syncing is better, but still not the best. In fact, the pre-rendered cutscenes themselves look better than last time, just now with the lip syncing. The worlds, once again, are huge and very detailed, but at times they feel copy and pasted from the previous game. The enemy models look good with a big variety to them, and there's lots of them, and I mean a lot. Final Fantasy X-2's sound aspect is pretty interesting, with the mix of tunes we have here, and I mean a mix. The music is very interesting. They'll have these upbeat tunes for battle and important events, almost like J-pop music. I say that because Yuna sings in Final Fantasy 2, and she sings a lot here. Seeing Yuna singing and dancing is really cool and enjoyable, I guess, because it's something that you never expected in Final Fantasy. Yes, I am what people are not a fan of this, but hey, it's something cool for its time, and Yuna does have a good singing voice here. The voicing is pretty much the same as last time. Most, not all, of the actors return to reprise their roles such as Haiti Barres, Tara Strong, Paul Tissot, and Gwendolyn Yu, and more. Most of the actors do a great job, while others not so much with either overacting or having no emotion in their voices. The good example is the bad guys, LeBlanc, Ormi, and Logos. They are so laughably bad, it's hard to take them seriously as the bad guys. James Arnold Taylor is back as well. He voices Shujin, the Tidus Lookalike, along with John DiMaggio, who voices Wakka, Kimahri, Ronzo, and others. It is nice to see these other actors come back and reprise their roles, because it would have been so easy to get replacements that did not sound very good at all. However, there's no Japanese audio once again, not even the HD remastered versions. I heard the Japanese audio and no surprise, it sounds better. However, the only way to hear it is by finding and downloading a mod for the PC version. This is similar to what happened in the Silent Hill HD collection, where you had the option for old voices in Silent Hill 2, but not Silent Hill 3. The Battle Victory theme this time is different, which is not a bad thing. Sure, the original theme we heard about other Final Fantasy games before was better, but this is still pretty good. Final Fantasy X-2's gameplay is great with some improvements and improvements at the same time. For stars, this plays and feels like Final Fantasy. The new feature is the Dressphere system, where during battle or navigating worlds, you have these Dresspheres you can unlock or already use for Yuna, Rikku, and Paine, Y.R.P. Each of these Dresspheres have different abilities, such as Warrior that makes you strong, along with Gunner that lets you use dual pistols like for Yuna, and Thief where you can steal items, which is what Rikku had in the last game. You unlock more spheres after beating the missions or a boss. The gameplay is set in a linear style. Sure, it's still big enough to explore and find hidden items, but what I mean is you have something called mission time. It's obvious, there are objectives to complete. Either timed or not timed, you get the picture. You have the vastness of worlds to explore. Most were found in Final Fantasy X. This can come off as a turn-off since most of these worlds were in the last game, but for me it's fine. I mean, it takes place in the same universe, so of course you will see similar worlds. It's not a big deal. Final Fantasy X-2 has a bunch of side missions you can do. There's nothing wrong with the side missions here like I mentioned, but if you not do them, yeah, you'll be missing parts of the story, and worse still, they're not even marked where the side quests are. They're not marked on the map, so you have to guess and just pick or have a guidebook or just go online to find the important side missions to progress the story and see the key parts you'll be missing. I never seen it happen before. Where you do not do side quests, you'll miss parts of the story. And some of these key elements here for the story are very important. If you miss them, then yeah, you won't know what's going on. It would have been easier if the map let you know where they were, like I said before. Final Fantasy X-2 does not have any characters for you to meet or join your party, but having Y.R.P is perfectly fine for me. This is also the first time you did not name any characters either. This trend will later continue in the franchise after this. The controls are similar, except you have no walk button, but hey, I'm fine with that. You can run as fast as you can. The sphere grid is back, and this time it's a huge improvement. It is much simpler and easier to figure out. You don't have to worry about going around in that big ass circle or whatever you call it last time. All you have to do is choose a Dressphere, choose a character, and there you go. Final Fantasy X-2 will take you about 20-30 hours to finish. That is with the side quests and everything. There is a true ending, but the way to get it is absolutely absurd. You need to not only 100% the game and find all the spheres, but you also need to talk to certain NPCs at a certain time without skipping the dialogue or the text boxes. Mess up one time, you won't get 100%. It doesn't matter anyway because both the good and true endings are considered canon. Final Fantasy X-2, honestly, it's a great game, just as much fun as Final Fantasy X for the PlayStation 2. Yes, it has those issues I mentioned, yes, it does feel like an expansion at times, but it's still a great game that's worth checking out. Before we can give Final Fantasy X-2 a score, let's go to our TTBurger Positives and Negatives. Yeah, I'm changing the name here. Instead of pros and cons, it'll be positive and negatives here. Yeah, do something different there. For the TTBurger Positives, Final Fantasy's back once again for more PlayStation 2 action. This is the very first Final Fantasy sequel that takes place in the same universe. Yuna is the main protagonist, and she's better than Tidus. Rikku is the main protagonist and is well developed here. Introducing Paine, who's similar to Swirl Leonhardt. The soundtrack is good, with a mix of tunes here. Yuna sings here and sounds great. Decent voice setting with most of the actors returning to reprise their roles. The Dressphere system is very unique and fun to use. Excellent graphics are on par with Final Fantasy X. Good storyline with Yuna, Rikku, and Paine. Y.R.P. Lots of worlds to explore, the sphere grid is easier to figure out, the spheres and side missions that add to the fun factor, and now for the TTBurger Negatives, the game can feel like an expansion than a true sequel at times. The voice setting, while good, some of it comes off annoying. Lip syncing is still pretty bad, LeBlanc, Ormi, and locals come off as annoying, skipping the side quests causes you to miss parts of the story, the map does not show where the side quests are at, and no Japanese audio once again. So that's what I gotta say about Final Fantasy X-2. What are my final thoughts on this game? Well, with those complaints of Final Fantasy X-2, it's still going to get a great score. Just like last time, I give Final Fantasy X-2 a 9.5 out of 10. It's just as amazing as Final Fantasy X. I recommend you checking out both games because they are both worth it. So yeah, if you want more Final Fantasy X action, this is the way to go for sure. And that's it for part 5 of my Final Fantasy series review, episode 302. Stay tuned, we got a new Final Fantasy game coming up here, Final Fantasy 12. I know y'all thinking, what about Final Fantasy 11? Well, that was an online MMO game, and I don't really care for those, so I'm not playing it. We're gonna look at Final Fantasy 12 that has new gameplay elements, new characters, new story, and everything that continues the PlayStation 2 era of Final Fantasy. How does it fare? Find out in the next part, but all I can say is this is Tony, peacing out, have a great day, stay tuned, we're taking a look at Final Fantasy 12 for the PlayStation 2. Take care everybody.
Lost in another dimension, and that's where